over what we learned in class on how to make a piece of pixel art from a photograph. So let's go ahead and get started. I have Photoshop open. I'm going to click New File, and we're going to work with a 32 by 32 resolution document that is RGB color. So we're going to go ahead and create that. Command 0 will zoom in on it, and Command minus once will zoom back out. Remember, Command H allows us to hide and show the grid. It's something to remember. By default, our workspace, we usually reset the essentials so that we're all on the same page, which is what we did in class. To get rid of the dark black background here, we have to unlock this background layer. So double clicking it unlocks it, and then going to Select All, or Command A, and hitting the Delete key on the keyboard deletes all the colors. Now you notice that there are still marching ants, so we always have to remember when we select, we always have to deselect afterwards to get rid of those marching ants. Okay, so the way we worked it was to go to the internet and pick up an image on the internet. I'm going to pick an apple for this demo, but you can pick whatever you want. And so once you select the image, here's the apple, you can just drag it onto the Photoshop icon at the bottom of the dock. Let me just try doing that again. And what should happen is it should open with Photoshop, but if it doesn't, you can always drag that image to the desktop like this. In this case, this image is a special type of image. I'm going to take a screenshot of this, so Shift Command 4, and that'll allow me to screenshot this image right here. Now that I can drop onto Photoshop, and you'll see it open up in a new tab. And now we have our original 32 by 32 pixel image, and we have our apple image. We're going to work with this apple image and then put it into our 32 by 32 image afterwards. So let's start by reducing the number of pixels in this image. So we go to Image, Mode, or I'm sorry, Image Size. And Option Command I would be the keyboard shortcut. We're going to make it 32 by 32, and then we're going to zoom in and see how good this looks. And pretty good, so I'm happy with what I'm seeing here. It's 32 by 32. We've been using Nearest Neighbor. You can try other things, but you'll notice it just kind of blurs everything out. This gives you the more of the pixely look, and we're going to hit OK. Command 0 will zoom that in, and then Command minus once to zoom out. The next thing we're going to do, what we did in class, right, was to get rid of the white pixels, and we just hit the E for eraser tool, right, and that's here, right? And we made sure we were in pencil mode, and we can change the size using the bracket key, and all I did was go through and get rid of the white. Holding the Shift key down, by the way, allows you to create a straight line, by the way. So what we're doing is we're trying to remove as much of that white as possible from the background so that the background itself is transparent, right? And we'll have a floating apple that we can bring into the other screen where the 32 by 32 inch document is. Because we know that this is not 32 by 32 perfectly, we know that it's a little bit wider from what we saw. So I'm almost done. I'm going to hit the bracket key a couple times to make it smaller here to get rid of all these little white pixels so that the only pixels I have left are in fact the apple pixels. So we've got an apple here. It's pretty pixelated already, but way too many colors. So let's get rid of the colors. So go to Image, Mode, Index Color. And what I'm going to do is go to Local Selective, because currently it's probably set to Exact, but Local Perceptual, sorry. Make sure the transparency is on, otherwise you won't see the background. It'll turn something different. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the number of colors to 4. And you notice when I do that, it's just not really good, right? So let's try 5, and maybe 6, maybe 7. And 7 seems to be pretty good. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 colors for the apple and 2 colors for the stem. So what I'm going to do, because 7 is pretty good, I'm going to go to the drop down where it says palette, and I'm going to go to that custom palette that we just chose. And you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 colors for the apple. I can reduce this manually by selecting this lighter color, this medium light color, and making it identical to this. So if I select this color, you'll notice that this is the color number for that select color. If I select this number, this is a different color number. It's CD4E3B. I'm going to copy that and hit OK. Now I've got it in memory. So if I go here and paste it, you'll notice that changes it to that other color. Now I have two colors that are identical. And then so I'll have 3 colors for the apple and 2 for the leaf. I'll hit OK, and you'll see that made a difference right away. I'm going to change my dithering to see if that could improve the image. So I've got diffusion, pattern. Pattern's too complicated and crazy. Noise is too crazy. Diffusion's better, and none is, I think diffusion I like more. So I'm going to select diffusion, and I'm going to hit OK. At this point, we have 3 colors for the apple, 2 for the leaf. And I'm going to have to outline this in black. But we know that we're in an index mode, so we can't use black yet. So we have to go to Image Mode, RGB Color. And at this point, I can hit D for default to make our default colors. And now I can go ahead and use the brush tool, B for brush, right? And we're always in the pencil tool when we're doing pixel work. Happens to be that the pixel size is small, so that's what I want. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and outline this in black, just to give it that whole pixel art feel. And that's what you're going to do for the quiz as well. Now, there's different ways to outline this. You can skip, you can just have them touch on the diagonals like this, or you can have it be a little thicker of an outline. And notice that if there are any colors you don't like, you can always get rid of them using the brush tool and selecting the colors in your apple here. Okay, almost done here. E for eraser, by the way, allows you to jump between the brush and the eraser if you make any mistakes, right? And let's see, almost done. And the idea is, again, you want to outline this as much as possible. And there we go. That looks like, there. Didn't miss anything there. So everything is now outlined. Now, if you wanted to outline the leaf as well, you could do that, right? There's one. And then if you wanted to add like something like that. And if you wanted the actual stem to be black, you could do that just like this. So there's our kind of our apple. Anyway, the last thing that we're going to need to do for this apple, I'm going to hit the E tool eraser to get rid of some of these pixels. I think they're just too bombastic here. So that's just me. Okay, I could play around all day. We go back to our move tool, and a move tool allows us to move around this object, right? So that on a move tool is what we want to be on. Now, we need to take this apple or whatever it is and bring it into our original 32 by 32 inch or pixel thing. So the way we did it in class was we went to Windows Arrange, and we went to 2-up vertical, which allowed us to see both things at the same time. So on this side, you can see there's the apple, and we could even call this apple, just to be sure. And on this side, there's nothing, right? So what we're going to do is click here till we see the layer, and we're going to drag this layer into this side and let go, and notice that that has now made a new apple layer. Now, the last thing we need to do for this quiz in class is to fill the background with a color. So we're going to use G, the gradient tool, but we're going to select Paint Bucket instead. We're going to pick a color. I'm in the hue mode. If you're in saturation or any of these other things, you can go to hue, pick a color. And for me, I think a good color might be this nice lavender. And because this layer is below the other layer, when I click in there, it fills in the entire layer, but we can now still see the apple. You can kind of see that. Now, if I'm on the apple layer and I've got the move tool, I can move it around to my heart's content, right? There we go. And if we wanted to animate this, for instance, like we did in class, like say we want the apple to bounce, boom, boom, like this, we could do that, right? And I'll just give you that. It's not necessary for the quiz, but here's how we would do it. First off, we'll need our timeline. And we're going to create a first frame animation here. And on that first frame, we're going to assume the apple is at the top off screen. And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy this frame right here, right? And we're going to paste it as a new frame, and it's going to paste secondly, right? And then what we're going to do, because the apple's off screen, we can bring it back down. And what we could do is like have it drop right here, right? And so now we have apple up, and then Apple down. And what we're going to do is create a tween using this button down here. We're going to select the first frame, click the tween button, and we're going to allow only the position to change, and we're going to make it an 8-frame animation, right? And it'll say tween with the next frame, not the previous one. That's why we selected the first frame in the first place. And we're going to hit OK, and you'll notice it now hits the bottom at the at the last frame here. The nice thing is now we can actually continue by taking this frame and duplicating it, right? So what we'll do is copy the frame, and then we're going to paste it. So now we've made 2 frames. This one's the apple. Now this one's the apple that wants to bounce a little, so I'm going to make it go a little higher. And again, I'm going to go to this apple, and because it bounced up, I want to put another couple frames between these 2 things. So I'm going to pick this frame, click my tween, and this time I'm going to make 2 additional frames. And what that will do is it'll allow it to bounce up. So you'll see it bounce up. And then finally, this frame, we're going to have it come back down. So we're going to copy the frame, paste the frame, and then we're going to take that frame and make it go down. And again, we'll add a little bit of a tween, maybe just 1 frame between the 2 because it jumps down pretty quickly. And what I want to do is make sure that I'm on the previous frame before clicking the tween so that it adds 1 frame to the next frame. And now it'll bounce down. And let's have this just stay down for a little while. By duplicating the frame again. So we go to copy frame, paste frame, and then what we're going to do is we're going to tween between these 2, but there's nothing different between these 2. So when I tween, between the 2 and give it like 10 frames, all it's going to do is nothing for 10 frames. You see? And that's how you make a little animated GIF. When you're ready to export this, you go to File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. You'll notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors, plus black, plus the background. This is exactly what we're looking for. We're going to add a 0 to the 320 from the 32 so that we make it a little bit bigger, right? You can even make this up to 1,000 if you wanted to go Instagram size, right? Like this. And that'll make it this. You can check it to see if it animates. Animates a little fast, right? So I'm going to hit done here, and before I move on, this animation's too fast, so I'm going to select all my frames here and select 0.1 second delay. And now I'm going to check out the save for web. Make this 1,000 because, Instagram. And then we're going to check it out by hitting the play button. That's it. That's what's going to happen on Instagram. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit save and call it apple.gif. And then I'm going to submit it to Giphy for people to use or whatever you want to do. So put it on the desktop where I save it. I'm going to hide just to show you that it is in fact on the desktop. Now if you double click it on the Mac, you know that it'll open up in preview and it'll show you each individual frame here. But if you just want to see how it animates here, you can just hit the space bar, and that's how it will look in Instagram. Hope you have fun and ready for the quiz on Monday.